Hi everyone, welcome back to the Perspective with Viv podcast. My name is Viv and this is the show. Today's title is Filming Humanity with Vanessa. Vanessa the Vivacious is a podcaster, filmmaker, musician, and documentarian who has spent the last 4 years traveling across America interviewing thousands of people about happiness, humanity, and everything in between. As the former managing director and contributing video journalist for Are You Happy? She worked with over 3,000 creatives worldwide. She's now launching Humanity 2.0, a video series and podcast exploring how we reconnect as humans. Her life philosophy, be vivacious. Hi, Vanessa. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much. What an excellent introduction and bio. I need to get you to write some more bios for me.
It's my pleasure. Now, vivacious, it's not just a name for you, it's a philosophy. What does being vivacious actually mean in your day to day life?
Man, it's everything. Being vivacious is, embracing life and for all that it's worth. I received the nickname Vanessa the Vivacious in college doing a icebreaker game. So it was a way to remember other people's names by using alliteration. So Vanessa and Vivacious. And I just kind of pulled it out of thin air. And then it stuck with me and it just led me on so many different life adventures. And it's become part of me, and in turn being vivacious in the world has become a part of life, of sharing humanity, of being vivacious in everything that I do. So it's taken me so many places.
I love that. And I especially love the word because on my social media pages, before I changed it to Perspective with Viv, I used to call myself Vivacious Viv. And
Yeah.
I feel as though it's a quality and attribute that I also tend to embody because I have this philosophy about life. You have to live it. You have to give energy. You have to be energetic. You have to be very passionate about living and experiencing. So I'm glad that you also share that same philosophy and you apply it to your day-to-day life because I find it so fascinating that you're not just one thing. You
Yes.
podcast, you make films, you make videos, you make music. And I just think that that versatility shows what vivaciousness is in action.
Mm, for sure. I
Yes,
love that you also use the word. So we're vivacious sisters already. But
definitely. Definitely. And the
Vivian is,
alliteration as well.
yeah, it's
That's why I
it's
say,
catchy.
yeah, yeah. So what lit the spark for Humanity 2.0? Was it one moment or a slow burn?
It definitely a slow, gradual burn into a fire. So, as you said, I started off with Are You Happy docuseries, and it wasn't even, me as a professional going, "Oh, what next can I do? What other projects can I be part of?" It was literally me standing on the back patio in the middle of the night, and I was watching TikTok videos, and I saw this one video that it was a beautiful representation of humanity being asked a simple question, that being, "Are you happy?" and then asking them why and to share their message with the world. The concept came from Ate Trepka, who traveled the world, in fact, not just the country, but the world, asking people and looking for the happiest person on earth. He, in turn, was inspired by a French film who also, I'm sorry, the film was also about asking people about happiness on the street. And so there's a particular film about interviewing life on camera without any kind of interruptions. So long story short is he traveled the world and then created this video series on social which has 4 million plus followers. And then this one video comes that I scrolled upon and I watched it and I was so moved by it. And then at the end of it, it had a call to action which said, "Join our team or be one of our interviewers." And I just had this thought like, "Oh, I could do that." That it excited me, right? And so then I reached out, filled out the form, and I went to my very first interview because they send you instructions on how to do it. And I went to the mall and I interviewed a balloon maker. And of course, he shared his happy perspective and how he made balloons for kids and people. And how could you not be happy? But then he shared some really interesting insights. And in the silence is where I found like so much inspiration from him. And so I sent that video in, and the editors took it, edited it, put it online. And what's really cool is that they don't really edit heavy. What they do is that they just kind of condense the space, right? So they don't edit the message at all. And I thought that was amazing. And so when the video aired, of course, it got a lot of attention because they have such a huge following. But then there was a comment there that a gentleman wrote, I saw this. No, he said, I was thinking about not being here tomorrow. I was thinking about leaving the earth tomorrow. And then I saw this video and I think I'm going to stay. And that just blew the whole world open for me in terms of the docuseries and its importance and the importance of asking people about happiness. And so it led, on a huge adventure to where I became part of the community. I ended up managing their Discord. I became the managing director of the docuseries. And then that led to their commercial side, which is Happy Productions. And there I became the production manager. So I taught all of these creators and visual journalists how to interview. But along the way, I still participated in the filming and the journalism aspect of it. And after all of that time, 4 years into it, I decided that I needed a break because it was tiring, right? Traveling the country. And when you interview people, and you share that experience with them, you give a lot of yourself too, right? Because you're actively listening and you're present and you're receiving their energy and giving yours, and it can be a little bit exhausting, right? And so after the 4 year period, I took a whole year off and did absolutely nothing. But I remembered that I had so much footage, so much raw footage that had never been seen. And in that footage were moments of humanity that were just too beautiful not to share. And so I thought, well, I can take moments, like the little tiny slivers of humanity, and project that for humanity so that we can see that we are still human, that there is still good humans in the world, and that there is a possibility of us being even better and being that humanity 2.0. I've also spent the time podcasting since 2012 and going from my other show, Vanessa the Vivacious show, and just doing like simple insights on life throughout the years until now. And then doing Are You Happy podcast. I was the host and executive producer for that as well. I said, video series, companion series podcast, let's go. So that led to Humanity 2.0 podcast. And so I'm doing both at the same time while managing production work. And I just signed a new client musician. So I'm
Oh,
just busy all the time. But
that's so amazing.
what's so I guess what's so lovely about it and so inspiring about it is just it's not even me anymore. It never was, but it's all about displaying humanity and showing their wisdom with the world and their sadness with the world, because in sadness we also find happiness, and it's the journey. It really is the journey. So I do my best to take myself out of it and put them in the forefront so that way we can all share in humanity together and really get to become that humanity 2.0.
Wow, beautiful. And after thousands of interviews, what's the biggest myth you think people believe about humanity?
That we're all the same.
Mm.
That we're not the same. Like, I have proof. I've seen it, I've heard it, I've lived it. We're not the same, and we do have potential to be better. A lot of social media, a lot of political, articles and examples say the other side is the case, that we are negative and we cannot become better than we are, and that we are creatures of habit. But that's not true at all. I've seen it and I believe it like wholeheartedly, that we have the capacity and the ability to be more, and we will be more.
That's a beautiful answer. Thank you. I do believe that, yeah, we are different. And that's what makes us beautiful as humanities, our differences and being able to exist, coexist in our differences. Now, how have all these conversations reshaped your understanding of happiness?
So it's changed my perception and how I see happiness by understanding that we're like fractals of light. We have such different observations and insights, and our life experiences shape our view of humanity differently. And so I've learned to understand that there is not just one single view, and that there's so many different avenues that you can receive or perceive humanity. So that I think that's what I've taken away, is that there is no one view. There is so many different facets, and they're all amazing.
Thank you for answering that. The concept of humanity itself is something that calls for one to think beyond the box. I like that you said that we're all fractals of light. We're not just humans, we're souls having an experience, and us coming together activates different aspects of us. So, what I'm feeling when you talk about interviewing people and asking them what makes them happy and just engaging in conversations is that you're allowing yourself to be activated in numerous ways through numerous people. The same way I bring on guests onto this podcast to interview them is the same way they give me a door to an aspect of myself that I may not have necessarily seen before or accessed before, just because they're stimulating my mind and my heart in a different way that I haven't experienced. I really, I can't imagine how impactful all these conversations have been in your whole journey. Being this interviewer, this documentary. Wait, sorry, what's the word?
So there's filmmaker, and then also a visual journalist is what I call it. I
Yes.
really like that term, because there's news documentarians, there's journalists that write for print, and then there's a video journalists who do video. So when you see news packages online, like the video saying there is a flock of cats in Cotswold and they've just come from the wild. And when you see the news, those are news packages, and those are done by visual journalists out in the field. They have to write it, they have to film it, they have to create that story. And so visual journalists also exist, and every day to day, where we're going out and we're filming, something, we're filming a story, capturing it like on the go, and then seeing what unfolds before us and publishing that to the world via digital platforms.
Thank you for answering that. And you know the thing, visual artist is very, very powerful because it's kind of like there's no limitation to what you're creating visually. You understand? So
Mm.
I get where you're coming from. So thank you for that. Is there one interview that permanently shifted something in you? One you still think about randomly during the day?
Yes, yes. Well, I mean, millions, but the first one that I mentioned, the balloon artist, that one really did because it was so simple and gorgeous. And then to see the response to it be so intricate and varied, that was amazing. There's also a woman who I filmed sitting in downtown Dallas, and she looked so sad. And I thought, I don't know if I should go up to her. Maybe I shouldn't. But in our training, we're taught to, if you see it and it speaks to you, go for it. And so I went to her and I asked her, and she was definitely sad. And at first, she didn't want to do the interview. And I said, well, we could do it via voice instead. And she said, no, 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 it's fine. So I said, okay. So I filmed her and I asked her if she was happy. And she said no. And then I asked why. And she gave the most interesting answer. She said that we waste our life thinking about things that never happen. And so it made me think to myself, like, that's so true. We definitely spend our lives wasting time worrying, right, about possible things that could happen to us or possible things that could happen at work or just all of these situations that don't even exist, but we worry about them and we blow them up so much that we forget that there's still life around us and that the possibilities for that not to happen totally exist just as much as the ones that do or could happen. And so I just had this chord strike where I thought, man, she's so right. We really do waste so much time thinking about that which does not happen instead of living our lives. And her message to the world was, don't do that. Basically, don't do that. She said, just live your life for what it is, and take what you have and what happens to you, take it with grace. Take it with stride and just move forward. If something bad happens, okay, something bad happened, but something good's going to happen too. Maybe if you have a lot of bad days, that just means that you've racked up enough points that you're going to cash them in for a lot of good days. But there's always the opportunity for, for us to do that, to stop worrying and just live.
I love that. And I'll tell you why. Because just before you start talking about this, I was thinking in my mind how there's a particular situation that I thought I'd envisioned in my mind was going on, but in reality, it wasn't. And I
Mm.
had to ask myself, I'm like, it's funny how we spend our time ruminating on things that we think are happening, but they're really not. And it's the least or the most neutral thing that's actually occurring. Does that make sense? And
Yeah.
you know what's funny? We give ourselves that anxiety because I remember there was anxiety at the back of my mind, but I ensured that I had more control over my mind. I kept saying that doesn't exist, that's not happening. But one thing I have realized as a person is that your body may still feel that energy and it's okay for it to feel it as long as you're not identifying with it. So
Mm.
that's something that I realize. Yes, I may have moments where I worry, but it's really about being able to see it as worry is here, but I'm not identifying with it. Worry is here, but it's not clouding my judgment. It's not
Mm.
influencing my entire mood. And even if it may, as you oscillate, it's about really grounding yourself back into neutral thoughts that what I'm thinking, what I'm envisioning as my big worry, it doesn't exist. It's not existing. It's fear appearing real. That the most neutral, the most aligned thing is happening to me as opposed to my worry. So that's what I
Mhm.
realized. I had to laugh because I was like, we put so much stress on our minds because we want to be able to anticipate worst case scenario so it doesn't hurt as much. And that's not the way to live.
Right. And there's something to be said for recognizing it and, like you said, just kind of, saying acknowledging it, right? And maybe putting it aside and then just keep going. But I also, when you were speaking, I thought of the fact that you can replace those negative thoughts with positive ones, and you can
Yes,
almost train yourself to be positive instead. So if
exactly.
you think you're not going to catch the bus in time, maybe there's a better bus. Maybe there's another bus that has more room that's coming around the corner next, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so, yeah, she really made me think so much. And then also to those that maybe don't have the, I guess, like the ability right now because of certain situations to replace the negative thoughts, it's okay to sit in your negative thoughts. That is okay. We have them, we acknowledge them, and it's okay to have them. But if you need someone to help you navigate that, talk to your friends, talk to your family, talk to someone, or watch something inspirational. That's what I do. If I'm in a bad place, I will watch something inspirational where I'll listen to a motivational speaker like Les Brown, and I will just instantly revive myself and fill that positive cup back up. But I most definitely acknowledge all of like the negative as well, because it's part of us. We can't just ignore it, but we can certainly acknowledge it differently and then move forward from there.
Definitely. I totally agree with you. And I think that's the beauty of you filming humanity is once again being able to capture different perspectives and being able to hear raw thoughts of people, and those things have lessons and nuggets of wisdom in it. That's what's so enriching. Now, if you had to give an energy reading from your travels, what would it feel like?
An energy reading from my travels. Wonder and gratitude, and sometimes a little trepidation, but mostly wonder. I remember walking around the streets of New York City, walking on the beaches of California, walking in the airport in Atlanta. It is the most long walk you've ever had unless you are
It
smart and
really
you
is.
figure out the train is right there. And I walked like over a mile and not realizing. But just exploring all of these places with wonder and then exploring these people with wonder and never once judging them or thinking, some kind of preconceived idea. Never, because we cannot open up and have that beautiful exchange if we're closed off or having these stereotypical thoughts that are clouding our minds. So definitely so much wonder and gratitude for all of it.
That's lovely. Now, when you're creating, whether it's film, music, or podcast, what inspires you and how do you begin the process?
What inspires me is kind of like abstract, I guess. Like it's a multitude of feelings and energies that come to me through ideas, or sometimes it's the thought of who's going to receive it. That's exciting to me. It's exciting to think of someone smiling or watching it and resonating with it or getting inspired by it. But when I was a little girl, I used to listen to music, like, classical music, film scores. Yanni was one of my biggest favorites. It's kind of a cringy thing, but it is true. And I would close my eyes and I would watch these movies in my mind that I would create myself, and I thought everybody did that, but apparently not. So, that was how I filled time. I was always by myself, but that was how I filled time. And then as I grew up to understand that, there is a big old world that's complicated, and some parts are not so great and some parts are great, and learning how to cope with that, but then do it through art. So there's always been an artistic presence in my life from the second grade, writing stories and then sharing them with my classmates, drawing pictures of dresses. And I can't sew, so I'd never designed the clothes, but I had a whole book full of dresses because I read a book called The 100 Dresses. And then finally learning to use the computer and using Microsoft Paint and Microsoft Movie Maker to make these really, really silly videos. And then, to now to being able to use so many different tools and so many different softwares. But the inspiration, it's just the idea of someone else, connecting and enjoying it. And I guess being able to see a piece of me that I cannot express in words.
Yeah, I understand what you mean. I feel also that when you create with the intention or with the vision of how people that are your audience will receive it, it's kind of like it streamlines the process a little bit. I don't know if I make sense because it's almost like you can draw from what you want them to feel and you put
Mhm.
that into your process,
Yep.
right?
Yep, 100%. It's almost like a guideline, or like a what is it when you write an outline? It's almost like an outline.
Mm,
I'm the same way when I create like the energy of the others that are going to receive it. It crafts the story a little bit and it
ooh,
helps. And you think of your audience while you're doing it. Like for instance, I just uploaded something like right before this. It was a performance of myself playing flute because I wanted to gift the gift of music, but I also wanted to include visual elements of how we should be this season, and helping one another as opposed to just getting gifts and sending gifts. And then at the end I put my wish for everyone to be good people and to help one another and to open the door for no reason and to say hello, things like that. But where the inspiration came from was my love for music and wanting to share, but also my love for humanity and wanting to share, hey, this is what this should be about, and let's
yes, I love that. You've captured so many raw, honest moments. What's your secret to getting someone to open up?
be quiet. Staying quiet. That is literally it. Like, I teach that. I taught that in a class with, like, a bunch of people, and they understood it, but it takes a minute to understand it. Because if you really stop everything and just think about silence, there is so much power in silence. When someone is speaking to you, you turn off your thoughts, right, and your desire to say something else, because as humans, we always want to put in our point of view, always, and if we're talky talkers like myself, then we always have like that next thing firing in the back or like at the same time. And so, like, just stopping everything, quieting the noise, symbolically covering your ears and just watching and actively listening. That's the key. Actively listening and just staying silent. People will say so much. And then when you stay quiet, we want to fill those moments of silence. That is a human habit. We want to fill those moments. And so, if you, as the interviewer, stay quiet after they've made a response, they will fill that silence with more, and then more unfolds, more follow-up questions, and you go other places, but that is the key, is silence and active listening.
Thank you for that. And that is like very important for different aspects of life as well. I have noticed the way silence makes other people feel like they need to fill in the gap. And if you're interviewing, even as a podcast host, when people speak, there's not necessarily silence for people to fill in, but that active listening, that pausing without interrupting, it allows things to flow. Yeah, it allows their thoughts to come out.
Mhm.
And or I've taught myself based on even reading feedback of guests on other podcasts or listeners of other podcasts, how they notice when a podcast host doesn't necessarily ask a follow up question or they just hear an answer and then they lead to the next one. So I've found a balance between both. Requires a follow up? What can we dive in a bit deeper? How do we navigate the flow? And that comes to active listening. And then when do you know to go straight to the next question and blend everything together? So I think that's really good advice. And thank you for that.
Mhm. Mhm. And if you want an extra tip would be that while they're speaking, when they say something that stands out to you, you would repeat that back and say, "What do you mean that?" When you say that the pond was so gorgeous that you just couldn't help but stand still, what do you mean by that? And that will just unfold so much more.
Ooh, thank you for that.
Welcome to my masterclass.
Oh wow, I should join. I should join. I
Yeah.
really should. Yeah. And what did managing 3,000 video journalists teach you about storytelling at scale?
Oh, man, it taught me that there was never going to be one journalist with the same point of view as the next one. So I had to learn how to be flexible and how to say, okay, here's the formula and here's how you put it into video or how you put it into words, but let's kind of explore this more and tell me where you're coming from, because I feel like we're on two different streets, but learning to compromise artistically, and then also to understand and open yourself up to what someone else is trying to portray. It's
Mm,
never going to be on the nose of the formula. Sometimes it is, but most of the time it's not like that. I enjoyed interviewing all of the visual journalists first too, because we did like kind of like a mass interview on Zoom where people would get the invite, they'd come in, everyone would be there. I'd talk about the specifics of the program and what's required, and then we'd go over questions, and then they would submit an audition video. Kind of, they would go out and interview someone based on the parameters that they were given, and then send that
okay.
in, and then we would hire them on. But yeah, just like the various different types of perspectives and filming and messages that they thought were important. That was really cool to see. And I really had to learn how to deal with that, various different personalities and artistic temperaments. So that was very interesting. But I'm very humble person. I'm not my way or the highway kind of thing, and I'm very nurturing. So it wasn't hard to do.
Yeah. I think it's also really impressive to have actually managed 3,000 video journalists and to have trained them. And that's really impressive. And
Yeah.
even just speaking to you, I'm learning things because, yes, I love film. I plan on ending my career in film.
Oh.
And for me, it's really, there's a beauty. Obviously, there are different elements, there are different genres one can explore, but no one can deny the beauty of a documentary,
Mm.
the storyline. You see, first of all, you can share your perspective when I'm done. What I've seen from watching numerous documentaries I truly enjoy. There's a narrative. We're telling this particular story. So this is the outline of the story that we want to tell, right? These are
Mhm.
the interviews we want to have, and these are the questions that we're going to ask in line with this narrative that I want to tell. So we can hear their perspective on this said thing. And what I love is how documentaries come together. Like you're roaming through different footage of people. You're picking out different things to add in certain places. And it's just the emotion, it's the clarity, it's the way your mind opens when you continue to follow it. And when a documentary ends, you're like, oh, I've been fed. That's how I feel
Right.
when I watch documentaries. Like, I've been fed. So,
Mhm.
what's your perspective? How do you even approach documentaries?
Man, it's the story that speaks to me, that is where I wanna go. So, I'll give you an example. There is one that I'm working on still, and mind you, not all films are made in a month or a year even, sometimes it takes a couple years, so it varies. But there is this one that I've been working on for a few years now, and it's about a girl who has MS, right? She has multiple sclerosis. And as a little girl, that's how she was diagnosed. She went to the hospital and the family, was beside themselves with the CDC trying to figure out what was wrong. This poor little girl and her family. And so then once they figured it out and they worked out a regimen to help her, she started taking ballet class, and that was to help her arms and her physical functions to get back 100% because she was so young. And then they found that ballet was like the answer to her, and that was her whole world. So it became this whole life journey of her being a ballerina. And so at the time when I was filming it, she was 18 now. And so, when you're 18, there's this whole like open world ahead of you. Like, where do you go? What do you do? What's going to happen next? Yet there's this huge storyline that happened from, age, let's say 5 up until now. And so I had the pleasure to learn the entire journey and then to film her now and take her to places and interview her parents. And there's still areas that I have to do interviews, but I just thought it was so fascinating that this young girl, having fought her way through this terrible physical limitation, then found beauty as a ballerina. And then she having, so much to do and so much to go for. And then I found out that sometime after filming, maybe in the next year, she broke her ankle in such a way that she's not going to dance again. So then there's another plot twist right there. Is like, okay, well, what do you do when your dreams are
My
deferred?
goodness.
I myself was going to be a professional flute player, and then I kinda hurt my hand, so that's how I got into video and film. And, so this girl, I still need to do some additional post interviews, but it was just
Wow.
so inspiring. So the film is gonna be called I Am Kate, and her name is Kate. And so it'll follow her journey from childhood through now, and then what do you do with that next chapter, right? And so I thought, "Okay, that's great," but it looks like a news package. It looks like, "This is Kate. Kate, had this happen. Kate is now he," like, it felt like the story wasn't, enriched with that story, that meat that you mentioned, right? And so I was in a hotel in Salt Lake City and I was having breakfast, and this man and his wife come through and they're so beautiful. And of course, I go talk to them and interview them. But then afterward, I find out that he's a cameraman for the BBC. And I was just like, oh my God, I was starstruck. I mean, anyone in production starstrucks me. It's not just celebrities. But then I said, can you tell me, how do I make this story more beautiful? And he's like, oh, that's simple. And he was British. I won't do the accent, but he's like, oh, that's simple. He's like, what you do is you just create another story right beside it, and then you just follow the two, and that's it. I was like, oh, okay,
Wow.
thanks. That's so funny. And I'm like, wow, it's so simple. But the other storyline that I'm going to run with is going to be following the journey of ballerinas in general and the fact that they're such athletes. They're strong girls and women. They work harder than so many, different people. Like, it's insane. I would imagine that ballerinas are far more athletic than even soccer players or football players. Like, they are so, so intense.
Yes.
The way that they have that passion and the way they, dance on broken bones, like, oh my God, that's insane. And so I think those would work lovely together. And then, at the end, I won't tell you, but when it comes to that end point, it'll have a beautiful resolve, and it'll have, of course, a message of hope and
Yes.
vivaciousness. So that's
Mm.
something I'm working on in addition to a few other films. And I'm not just documentary film. I do also wish to do like narrative film, like independent feature films. So I do have some things I'm working with. There is one with AI that's so funny and moving. It's going to be great. I never had dreams to go to Hollywood. I wanted to go to Sundance. So that's been my whole life mantra. We're going to
Yes.
Sundance, baby.
Yes, please.
We're going to
Girl,
Sundance. I'm
yes.
claiming it, right, right. I claim it every day. We're
Yes.
going to Sundance, baby. my mom, she passed away in January, and she was always so proud of me for everything. Like, I could wash my hands and she'd be proud, and when she passed, her health worker said, "Your mom said you got an award. Congratulations." And I'm like,
Mm,
"What award? I didn't get an award." And I was like, "But maybe she's, putting it out into the universe that that's what's gonna happen." So, yeah, I always keep her in mind. When I traveled as a journalist, I had this bracelet of hers, and I would take pictures of it, like, "See, mom, you're still here. You're here in the beach," and yeah, she was so supportive.
that's so beautiful, and I'm really glad that I also have that Sundance dream. I think that that's an epic dream to have, and I truly see you there as well because you've done wonderful, beautiful work with filming humanity. And it's the stories, it's the narrative, and I'm sure that has shaped you. Not only
Mm,
has that shaped you, it's also shaped you in being able to train 3,000 video journalists. That is not an easy feat. So I feel like
no.
storytelling is wrapped around you, which is why you can show it through podcasting, through film, through music. It's in you. Even when we speak and you're talking about these interviews you've had, these things you've learned, what people have responded to, the heart of the story can be felt in what it is that you're describing.
Mm,
That's what I'm really
yeah,
happy to hear. The story about the documentary about the ballerina Kate and then ballerinas in general, I think is beautiful because I used to do ballet. I love ballet as a sport. Yes, I was even saying to myself today because I saw someone on TikTok doing a video. I was like, that gosh, when I have the opportunity, I'm going back to ballet like as a recreational sport again because
yes.
I used to do it as a kid. Then when I was in doing my masters, I was doing it. I was 18. I did it for like a year.
Mhm.
It's just I don't know, it's a beautiful sport. So having that
Yeah,
documentary, tell a story about one ballerina and then ballerina as a general, it's just I'm sure like you would have so many
yeah.
viewers
Oh my
because
god.
it's just a sport that people love. Like I know that for a
Yeah.
fact. And another thing, I feel like as you were sharing like tips, right? The cameraman for the BBC, I think he shared another like tip, like two stories in one. Wow. I wouldn't have known that because come on, that's another tip and trick to
Yeah.
incorporate.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at documentaries in general, like now everyone, us included, right? When you look at a documentary, any single one of them that's never just one story, it's always complemented by a supportive story. So, for instance, if they're making a documentary about the gentleman who was in prison forever and framed, and it's like this controversial thing, the subplot is the jail system and a conversation or a
Mm,
commentary on
wow.
the prison system, right? You meet other
Mhm.
prisoners, you see what they live through. So there's always like a subline or a sub story
I
going
didn't
on at the
even
same time.
know. Wow. I think that that's peaceful because I'm not going to lie to you. I was thinking, I think it was 2019. I was thinking about doing a documentary of me and my journey because I do a
Mhm.
lot of art. Like I find myself to be an interesting subject. Let's just say that because I use my art as a mirror to
Mm.
reflect who I truly am, aspects I may not see. I wanted to document my entire creative journey, like
Mhm.
from me having an idea from inception to conception.
Mhm.
Like for example, there was a time when I wanted to do a documentary on me working on my first music album. We have that in common. And then there was another time when I wanted to do this, and that with that same documentary, I wanted to do is talking about how I was putting in the work to release my first book.
Mm.
Yeah, so my documentary was really about my art journey and possibly self development in the process as a subline without me even knowing.
Yeah.
And so that's interesting that we're talking about documentaries because I know how it makes me feel. I know how those stories make me feel and how I love listening to people's interviews and then piecing it all together. Like, okay, let's talk about a few documentaries. What did you think of 13 by Ava DuVernay? The documentary on the prison system. It had this main story of black men in the prison and how they've
Yes.
been there's a pipeline for them to enter prison. One, two, you also spoke about the prison system and how it's a private corporation as opposed
Right,
to a
right,
government
very
one.
privatized,
What did you
yeah.
think?
I thought it was so moving. It was I mean, a good film makes you feel things, right? So you feel things, you feel sad for them, you feel angry at the system, you're angry at the entities above the system that even allow this to happen and no kind of recourse, right, for, ill actions, and so it was very moving and very eye-opening for sure, but at the end point, it's kind of like, man, it makes you walk away with, "I've gotta do something," and that's so awesome. Like, it makes
Yes.
you feel that call to action without even putting it in words, but in a visual form.
Yeah.
Overall, I feel like we're so fortunate as artists, as creatives, whatever it is that we're doing, to be in this moment because right now documentaries are everything. Independent films are finally outshining
Yes,
mainstream.
yes, they are.
Podcasts are friggin' huge. Like this is our time, to really just create and to share with
So
the world. So
true.
it's like we have this gorgeous platform now, and it's not. I don't say that I recommend what I did to everyone, but I had a corporate job during my year break, and I left this job without thinking. I just couldn't take it anymore. And I just decided that I was going because I woke up one day and said, if I was to pass away right now, I would be so mad that I was at a desk, working insurance claims and
So real.
not contributing to humanity and just denying claims or whatever. And I was like, I can't live with that. I cannot live with that. And so I quit that day. And then I just picked back up with my production and never stopped because freelance, you can't ever really stop unless you're, in a good place financially. But I just had to get back to it. And I was so glad that my year break of being exhausted and being burnt out, that it kind of like smoothed out. And when I was ready to dive back in, like all of the creativity was waiting for me. And I'm so happy that we're in this position now because it's like this literally is our time and we get to just do everything we possibly can and we can sleep later.
That, yeah, I tell myself that as well. Like, sleep can come later because there's a lot to do. And you know what's funny? I love that there's been this, what's the right word? In this conversation with you, I feel like there's more of this acceptance of the fact that I'm going to continue my artistic career and that right now I'm just in between, working that 9 to 5 to work towards the artistic career. It's been
Mhm,
a nice revelation because, like you said, I just want to always know that I spent my time creating. I spent my
mhm,
time adding something of value to the world.
mhm.
It's just been my natural disposition since I was young. Like, I do a lot of things. The same way you do a lot of things and you're vivacious is the same way I am as well. I tap into so many things. I paint, I write, I do
Yes.
podcasting, I love music, all of that.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I think I just sat down with myself yesterday and I was like that I need to continue on this path. Even if that
yes.
I'm here doing this, I need to continue on this path. And I love what you said about filming changing and independent films like really taking, I know, like I've also thought about Sundance. I've
Mhm.
also thought about creating my own independent film. It's nice to have a conversation with someone that is doing that because you feel inspired and you're like, let me continue. And I didn't know, or maybe I knew, but now it's like more enhanced because I'm talking to you.
Yeah.
Documentaries have always been impactful in my life. I loved watching documentaries. Another documentary that I really loved was the Harry and Meghan documentary. It was
Mm,
very beautiful storytelling of how what they went through in the hands of the media. There was that obviousness that they were not trying to target the monarchy directly,
mm.
but they spoke more about the media team. But underneath that, they also spoke about their love and how they've progressed together as a couple. And I just love the storytelling. I just love how all the interviews lined up and
Yeah.
it was telling that story in such a very compelling way.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it wasn't like a film that you see on the History Channel, right? Where it's just like linear. It was multidimensional, and when you can bring humanity and that human aspect of it, their relationship, their love for one another into the main storyline, that just enriches everything and it unfolds so much emotion and connection. And so yeah, it was very well done. It's funny because you paint, I'm not a painter. It's like there are so many things I can do that sometimes I purposely seek out the things that I cannot do because I just want that humility. But I could never paint. I'm not a drawer, but I'm a visual painter, right? And there was something else that you do. I don't recall what it was. Yeah,
Is it
so
writing?
no, I definitely write. With the ballerina thing, I could never.
Okay.
That I could never.
I love
I'm kind of
I
a,
love
little
ballet.
big girl, but
No,
I
ballet is
could
for
never.
everyone.
Yeah, oh, my knees are kinda bad, so, I
Oh, fair
mean,
enough, fair enough.
but I will get there. I can, work out, I can try to join a class and such, but yeah, no, I would love to include you because, like I said, I'm still working on this film, I'm still gathering, footage and interviews, and that would be kinda cool to collaborate on it with somebody in a whole other country. There are probably ballerinas in your country that have, like, different aspects than American ballerinos, so that would be pretty nifty.
Ooh,
Yeah. We'll
okay.
have to reach out to you about
Sure,
that,
I'd
but
love that.
yeah, documentaries are amazing, independent films are amazing. I'm really bad with names. I just remember what they did, like the emotion from it, but I devour everything, and at the same time, my mission is, like, don't recreate, make something new, right? and just try to connect with humans on a whole other level in a way that they've never seen and make them think. And I've been doing that my whole life.
So, what's your boldest hope for Humanity 2.0? Can you paint the picture for us?
So, my boldest hope is that it reaches just a global audience.
Mm.
And in that global audience is inspiration to do kind acts and to change, their local surroundings by infusing hope and humility and kindness for other people. And then that becoming a catalyst for other people to be inspired and to be better humans and to do for others without even thinking about it. So that humanity 2.0 will just grow and we will become far more stronger and united than we possibly ever were. That's
Yes.
that's what I wish. I wish for everyone to just be, inspired and then do kindness and good things from there.
Thank you for sharing that. And I think that that's a beautiful place to stop. One thing I have learned in our conversation that I really love is the fact that the work that you're doing is impactful, not just from the work itself, you even talking about it. As you talk about it, as you said, you're a visual artist. As you speak, you're painting a picture for me that I see. And as I
Mm.
see it, I feel it. I feel the impact. I feel the perceptions of people that you've interviewed, their feelings, their emotions, the way they've shared, the way they see the world, and the way their humanity has reflected on screen. And I'm thankful that you've come on this podcast to share your journey with us. Honestly, so inspiring. I'm so moved. I'm interested in seeing more and learning more about your work. Listeners, if you'd like to follow Vanessa's journey to connect and to support, you can find all her work, projects, and social links, as well as freelance services at vanessathevivacious.com. And that's a perfect place for us to say goodbye. Thank you so much, Vanessa. Would you have anything else you'd like to say before we go?
I would be sure to follow all the social platforms and then you can support the company and all the future creative work at Buy Me a Coffee/Humanity 2.0 podcast. And above all, be vivacious and be kind to one another. And remember that humanity exists and we're on the trend to move upward. And I can't wait to meet all of you in the world.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Bye, Vanessa. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.